Welcome to Dungeon Academics. My name is Thomas and I will be your instructor. Let's start this video with an interesting statement. Every class should have two subclasses. I don't mean there should be only two options to pick from. There should be the opportunity to pick from two different lists of subclasses. Now that might sound weird, but we already do it in 1 and 2 half cases in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take those 2 half cases first, the Paladin and the Cleric. Both of those have their primary subclass. In the case of the Cleric, it's the domain, how they worship and serve their god. And in the case of Paladin, it's their oath, what they have promised to do. But in addition to that, you could also pick which deity, or in the case of Paladin, other source of power, you have made that commitment to. Now, in the case of Paladin and Cleric, all the options you get are from your domain or your oath. The deity or powerful being you've made that commitment to is mainly for flavour and role-playing purposes, which I think is a lost opportunity. Perhaps it would be better if first you got to choose which, let's say deity in this case, you make your commitment to, and then you get a second set of options saying how you are choosing to serve that deity through your oath or your domain. I think that by having a modified spell list, a few tweaks on special abilities, class abilities, if we end up going in that direction, could make very interesting characters. Now, not every combination might necessarily work as well as others. If you were to, example, pick the God of Peace and become a War Domain Cleric or a Conquest Domain Paladin, you'd have to justify that in terms of role-playing, and that's a discussion that you can have with your games master, but it should still work. It would have to be carefully engineered so that the abilities on offer didn't overlap too much. If you picked a war-based god and the War Domain Cleric, you should be able to take a full set of options without them doubling up and essentially wasting some choices. And the abilities should be split nicely between domain and god. I think giving players more choice is a good thing. And this kind of meta choice, where it's choices made about the character, not by the character, are still important to me. What about the full choice? There is a full choice that has 2 subclasses, and that's Warlock. You get to choose who your pact is made to and what your pact is. Interestingly, you pick what your pact is right away. So you get to be a Hexblade Warlock, or you get to be an Archfey Warlock, or you get to be a Fathomless Warlock. And later on, at level 3, you get to choose the nature of that pact. Whether it's Pact of the Blade, Pact of the Chain, Pact of the Tome, or other. Now, this has changed in the 2024 version of D&D, but by mixing and matching the nature of your pact and who your pact is with, you have a incredibly versatile set of options for a character. And I don't think it's too out there to say that Warlock is perhaps the most flexible class in Dungeons and Dragons, given that it has functionally 2 subclasses plus all the customization options of Eldritch Invocations. What could we do to apply this to other classes as well? Would it be possible to make a matrix of subclasses for every class? I'd like to try. And the thing is, if we can't do it for every class, I don't think we should do it at all. I have this idea that there should be a standard template for character progression with classes where at specific given levels you get subclass options. So if we had 2 subclasses, subclass A and subclass B, maybe they would kick in at level 2 and level 3, and then you get a further option at level 6 and 7, and another one at level 11, 12, so on and so forth. These should be set out in a rigid framework rather than thrown in differently for different classes. I like this idea of somewhat regimenting it. But is it possible to make every class have 2 subclasses? Now, I've put a bit of thought into this, and some of them, it's actually quite easy to work out. So, for example, for wizards, there are clearly 2 subclass sets that we could use. Which school of magic is your primary magic, and what kind of wizard are you? So your school of magic, it could be invocation, it could be illusion, it could be necromancy. All those different sets of magic are well defined. But then there's also how you use them. Are you a battle mage? Are you a blade singer? Are you a order of scribes? Are you a hedge wizard who just goes around town helping people out with magic problems? So by having a specialization in which school of magic you work with, and then a second one in how you use that school of magic, we have 2 subclasses for wizards. How about sorcerers? Well, sorcerers present a very interesting way. There is the source of your magic. Is it from dragons? Is it clockwork soul? Is it otherworldly things have had some sort of influence on your genetic past? So there's the source of your magic, but there's also how this magic manifests itself through you. Now, I'd need to sit down and think of a good list of options for that, but wild magic is clearly one of them. So it could be how you get your magic and how your magic manifests. That would be the 2 ways you could do a sorcerer. For a fighter, it's a bit harder. For a rogue, it's a bit harder. In fact, I think it's harder for most of the martial classes, but I think it's worth spending some time looking into this. I like the idea of every class having dual subclass, and it's certainly worth putting some time into to see if I can make it work. That's perhaps where you could come in. Give me some ideas. How could we make this work? I am willing to listen or read to any ideas you have, and I'd love to see if you've got any brilliant ideas I can incorporate into this. Of course, if you come and say, hey, we should use this, and I like it, absolutely, I will credit you for it. That's not a promise of monetary compensation, because at the moment my budget is 0. So there you go. But I'd love your ideas. I'd love to share them. And this is a collaborative game, so sharing ideas is definitely in the spirit of it. So how would you dual subclass other classes, particularly the martial ones? Let me know your ideas and enjoy your next game, whatever it may be.